In January of 1962, Floyd Patterson was invited to the White House to talk to President Kennedy.
You are in a private screening room in mid-Manhattan, where two world's champions, Floyd Patterson, world's heavyweight boxing champion, and his friend Jim Jacobs, world's handball champion and boxing history expert, are watching the story of Floyd Patterson's fight career.
Floyd, did you really tell the president who you were going to fight?
Yes, I did.
Well, then, President Kennedy was the first man to find out that you were going to fight Sonny Liston.
Yes, he was.
Well, that's quite a jump to come from a Brooklyn slum to shake the hand of the President of the United States. So many kids who've come out of the slums have gone on to become fighters. Is that why you became a fighter?
Well, I was fortunate. I did come from the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn. My two older brothers were fighters before I was, and I guess it was because of them that I became a fighter. I became interested in it. I used to carry their bags back and forth to and from the gymnasium and to the different amateur fights. And it was at that time that I began training myself, and my trainer then thought that I was good enough to go into the Golden Gloves, so I enlisted in the Golden Gloves in 1950.
This is one of your very early Golden Glove fights in 1951 with John Gibson.
Yes, I remember this one. In fact, I lunged into the air, as you see, and I kept lunging, and he ducked as I did so, and I rolled over and stood on my head. I didn't know that I was standing on my head until I seen the papers the next day. They took a picture of me standing directly on my head. This one. This was for the 1951 Golden Glove Championship.
There you are in the black trunks on the right.
Yes, I believe this fight was at Madison Square Garden.
Wow. What a punch. When you hit a man like that, do you ever wonder, think, is he going to get up, or do you know sometimes?
No, you never know, actually. Of course, I have hit guys like that, and they have been very badly hurt, but did get up, and other times they didn't. Of course, you never really know.
Now here against Harold Carter, and you're on the right. What was this for?
This was for the Eastern Golden Glove Light Heavyweight Championship. This fight was in 1952.
I see.
I think this was also at the Garden.
Just a young boy then. How old were you, do you remember?
In 1952, I was 17.
Harold Carter went on to become the 5th-ranking heavyweight in the professional division.
Yes, I know. In fact, I trained with him up in camp, I think, in 1954. The funny part about it was, in training, I hit him with the same type of a punch that I did here, as you'll see, and the same results.
The referee wouldn't let it continue. There you are in the black trunks.
We were fighting for the Intercity Golden Glove Light Heavyweight Championship. In 1951, I had lost the middleweight championship against Chicago. I was so determined in 52 in this particular fight here not to lose, because I had lost the first year, was 51, and I definitely didn't want to lose again. But Eddie Jones proved to be one of my toughest amateur fights. He stayed on top of me all the time, and was consistently throwing punches. In fact, this is the way the fight went the whole 3 rounds. Of course, fortunately, in the last round, I was able to knock him down, and I think that's what won me the fight.
And here you declared the winner.
Because of my performances in 1952, I was chosen to represent my country in the Olympics in Helsinki, Finland. And I won, of course, 4 other boys won. There were 5 of us all together. And I would say getting off of the plane at Idlewild Airport back in the United States, that was the proudest moment of my life at that point. There were reporters, and many of them asked me, did I fight a Russian? But I didn't fight a Russian. I fought a Romanian. I believe his name was Vasila Tita.
This is that final fight which you had in Helsinki in the Olympic Games.
Yes, I had had 3 fights at this point, and my opponent also had 3. And this was the finals. The first one I had won by a decision, and the next 2 were knockouts, and also this one. When the referee reached 10, I knew that I was the amateur champion of the world, and I had won the Olympics. I felt very proud. This is when we received the medal. I was told to bow to the crowd. I think that's how they do it in foreign countries.
This is after you had turned professional. Lester Jackson was the 3rd professional fight you had had.
This fight was in Madison Square Garden. It was a very, very tough fight, and I had won a close decision from him in the amateurs. But now he had been fighting professional, I believe, for about a year and a half. I don't know how many bouts he had at this point. This was my 3rd.
That's you in the black trunks, Floyd.
Yes.
At this time, you were already being touted as one of the great fighters to watch in the professional ranks. There was a great harangue made over the way you knocked him out.
Well, after this fight, the commissioner came back to the dressing room. I remember that. And he told my manager that he did not wish for me to fight any more preliminary bouts. That from that point on, I think I was to have fought, I was supposed to have moved up a rank or something into 8 rounds. I guess he thought that I had more experience, or I was older than what I was saying. Like I was saying, there was a fairly large dispute about my age in a couple of more years. I mean, from this time in 54, I believe it was. Of course, I was fighting 8-round main events. In 53, I mean, a year later.
Here's Joey Maxim entering the ring. You know, when you fought Maxim, you had only had 13 professional fights. Now, Maxim has gone down as one of the finest and most clever boxers who ever ruled that heavyweight division. What was your strategy in this fight, sir?
Well, I had never went into a fight with any set strategy. I usually figure out the strategy that I'm going to use in the actual fight. I always find that that's the best way.
Are you satisfied with the way the fight was progressing?
Yes, I was satisfied. I was able to hit him a lot more than I thought I would be able to. In fact, the reporters were saying that if I used a lead punch with Joey Maxim, as you see I just did it, it wouldn't work. I found it worked every time I used it.
Well, Maxim, having already beaten fighters like Bob Satterfield and Jimmy Bivens, Jersey Joe Walcott, and Gus Lesnovich, for a fighter of this caliber to be in against you, and you're only having 13 professional fights, it was a tremendous step upward.
Oh, yes, it was. I learned quite a bit in this fight. I would say this was one of the more important ones, because I learned how it was to be in the ring with someone with that kind of experience. And also, in losing it, I knew how I felt afterwards. It made me more determined, more desperate, and it helped me in many ways.
There were 12 sports writers at ringside who watched this fight, and after the fight was concluded, all 12 of them voted for you. Did you know that?
Yes, I know. There was quite a bit about it in the papers the next day.
Tommy Loughran, who was at ringside, and I'm quoting him, he said, someday this boy, referring to you, will look back on this fight and thank his far-seeing manager, Customato, for putting him into the ring against this experienced fighter. He felt that he learned a great deal from this fight. So here in your 14th professional fight, Floyd, you lost a decision to Joey Maxim, the former light heavyweight champion of the world. This is the second fight that you had right after your defeat by Joey Maxim. Do you remember the Harrison fight?
Yes, I do. In fact, my trainer at that time, him and I had somewhat of a dispute. He had told me that I would get knocked out in this fight, and, well, I guess I wanted to prove to him that I wouldn't get knocked out.
Well, Harrison had previously beaten Jimmy Bivens and Jimmy Slade, which are very fine credentials to carry into a fight. Wow.
My camp was very much against Cus taking this fight for me. I remember that. But Cus felt that I could beat Grant, and whatever Cuss felt, I always went along with it because he had more faith in my ability, I guess, than anyone else, even probably myself. So whatever he believed, I always tried to perform, to live up to whatever he believed.
Well, your manager, Customato, did make the statement that off of your performance against Grant, that he was confident that you could beat any fighter in the world, and that he was going to proceed on that assumption. You had given Grant a tremendous beating going into round 5. It's amazing that he was able to stay this long.
Well, see, Grant was a very, very good fighter, but I think it was a matter of who started first. And I think I started faster than he did, and that's why he never got a chance to really sell himself. But perhaps if he started before I did, it could have went the other way. But I managed to start before he.
In previous fights, had you switched your attack to the body and to the head as you've done here?
In previous fights, some of them, yes. I did this whenever the opportunity was there. With Grant, the opportunity was there.
Here's the end of the fight. The referee steps in.
This fight with Archie McBride was in Madison Square Garden. I did have a chance to box Archie McBride on a couple occasions. We had trained in the same camp, and I didn't have any sparring partners, and neither did he, so we worked together a couple of times.
Archie McBride previously had beaten Bob Satterfield, who was one of the very finest fighters of the day. It was a great win for McBride. You're getting in against McBride and giving away 16 pounds to a heavyweight was quite a feat.
In our training sessions, I found much, much harder because I would try to press him, and Archie McBride is the type of fighter that I found out in training that you don't try to press because he's a better fighter when you're pressing him because he presses back.
Here's a slow motion shot showing your full punching power. was a great deal at stake in this fight, as the winner was to fight Rocky Marciano for the world title. Marciano hadn't retired yet.
The press wrote that if the fight went over 5 rounds, that I would lose because of Jackson's tremendous stamina. I trained very hard for this fight because I wanted to prove that if I did knock him out within 5 rounds, that I could go the whole 12 rounds and wind up just as strong as he. In the earlier rounds, I think it was round 4, in this fight, I broke my hand, the 4th metacarpal.
From the 4th round on, you fought?
Well, I can't say it was the 4th round. I began to feel pain in the 4th round, so I figured, well, that must have been when I broke it. Incidentally, Jackson and I trained in the same camp for many of our fights, and we became very close friends. Unfortunately, after this fight, our friendship ended. The same thing happened after the Jimmy Slade fight. I used to call Jackson quite a bit, and we used to sort of pal around together, mainly in camp. But after that, after this fight, I couldn't get in touch with him anymore. See, I'm just as strong as he is.
And that's what you were out to prove?
I was out to prove, yes.
Here you win the decision and become the leading contender.
I can't say that I actually broke the hand in the 4th round. I can say in the 4th round is the round that started giving me trouble.
How soon will the doctors know definitely whether you're going to be able to fight in September?
About in 4 or 5 weeks.
The fight is still definitely scheduled with Archie Moore for the heavyweight championship, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, now, do you think that with the injury you're going to be able to be in good enough condition to fight otherwise?
Yes, I'll be doing everything else except boxing, and it'll only take me to get into good shape about 2 or 3 weeks of boxing.
Well, some of the writers are saying that you're not ready for more. What do you think of that?
Well, my manager thinks I am. If he does, I do too.
It must have caused a great deal of concern training for a heavyweight championship fight against Archie Moore with a broken hand, Floyd.
Yes, it did. In fact, many of the sports writers was trying to figure out how I'm going to fight for a championship match, and I couldn't box. All I could do was do road work and loosen up in the gymnasium. Of course, the doctors, they wanted to operate, but my manager, I forget the name of the doctor that he did get, gave me whirlpool treatments. Of course, the bone was here, the 4th metacarpal. He gave me whirlpool treatments, and it built up calcium around the bone, which made it stronger than what it would have been if they had operated.
Well, did your manager, Customato, want the hand to be operated on?
Well, he didn't know what to do. Some doctors said yes, it should be operated on, and others said no, whirlpool treatment would be the best. So as far as I was concerned, I didn't want any operation because doctors say that would put me out for a year or 2. And I wanted to fight for the championship, so I decided to gamble on the whirlpool treatments.
I remember that after you beat Jackson, he was then scheduled to meet Archie Moore, but your manager, Customato, went on a national radio hookup appealing to the public that you were the rightful contender to fight Archie for the title. And having the backing of all the boxing commissions, he was successful in getting the title fight.
I usually figure out the strategy that I'm going to use once I'm in there. Of course, Archie Moore, I had seen him fight a few times before, and I've always admired him, especially the way he operates once he's in the ring. He's a thinking fighter, and he plans practically every move he makes. Now, to me, I thought that this would be an extremely dangerous fight because Moore can take you out with one punch. And he has one of the best right hands in the business, and I had to respect this along with all of his ability and his experience and everything else. I respected him, but naturally I fought the fight that was within me to fight. I tried to take advantage of every opportunity, and at the same time be cautious.
And here you become the heavyweight champion of the world at the age of 21, the youngest man ever to win the heavyweight title.
Yes, this was another one of the proudest moments in my life. I'd finally reached the top as far as my occupation is concerned.
I remember your first title defense was against the #1 ranking contender, Tommy Jackson. Next, you fought Pete Rademacher, Roy Harris, the 4th ranking contender, Brian London, the 4th ranking contender, and then here you're defending your championship against Ingemar Johansson, who was also the #1 ranking contender.
In this round, I particularly remember I decided to move in and look for a quick knockout, and that's exactly when it happened. I got knocked down. Or getting up. And I thought that I had knocked him down when I heard the referee say neutral corner, so I went to go to the neutral corner. And now when I'm down, I'm beginning to realize that it is I who's down and not my opponent Ingemar. And then the fear begins to build up inside of me, and I have to fight in desperation, so to speak. Kept getting up? Well, I kept getting up because I was able to. I think any fighter would do that if they're able to. You were fighting back then? Yeah, I was beginning to come out of it. Still not enough to really give a good account of myself, but I think this was the time now that I was looking right in the eyes of John Wayne. That I remember. He was sitting right there ringside, and I looked right in his face one of the times I was getting up, and I think that last time was it.
What went in your mind when you...
I was very embarrassed. Sure. I wanted to keep the title, in the United States. Of course, in coming back to the dressing room, There were many reporters around me asking all kinds of questions. I don't remember what my answers were to the questions. All I can remember is coming outside and a lot of people applauding for me, people that live in Harlem, and I remember getting into my car, and I remember the drive home to Rockville Center. All of the things were beginning to come back to me around that point. I remember looking into the face of John Wayne. I remember how embarrassing it was back in the dressing room, or even the walk from the dressing room to my car parked on the street. And then I decided at that point that I would go into hiding. I wouldn't, leave the house, so I wouldn't see any of my fans or any of the people that I had knew that expected me to beat Ingomar. And to a certain degree, I had even felt that I had let my country down. And I went back to 1952 when I won the Olympics and brought the title to the United States. And then in winning the championship here in the United States, I had wanted to keep it here. See, and so if I should ever lose it, like I said before, I'd hoped it would be to an American and not a foreign fighter, because I know how people look up to it. Anyway, I felt pretty miserable for about a year, but after a while I began to come out of it. I got me a training camp, a very secluded one way up in Connecticut, Newtown in fact. And I was there for about 9 months preparing for my return bout. And as the bout got closer, I got happier, of course. I was extremely nervous because I didn't want to let my country down again, but I think because of the things that he had said, the statements that he had made about me concerning my weaknesses and everything else, I had no trouble building up viciousness within me and determination. Of course, I remember the day of the fight. I remember that very vividly at the hotel. I was somewhat nervous, but confident. And then I remember the dressing room the night of the fight. I remember just before leaving the dressing room, I said to myself, will I come back as the champion or will I be defeated again? I was very confident, but this time with caution, which is something I didn't have the first time I fought Ingomar.
Introducing from Rockville Center, Long Island, weighing 190 pounds and wearing black trunks, the challenger, Floyd Patterson. From Gothenburg, Sweden, weighing 194 and 3/4 pounds and wearing white trunks, the heavyweight champion of the world, Ingomar Johansson.
Did you know that 7 heavyweight champions attempted to regain their title, including Jack Dempsey and Joe Louis? None of them were successful.
Yes, I know.
Everyone wondered in this fight whether you were going to come out and be aggressive.
That was my plan, to be aggressive, not give him a chance. See, Ingomar is the type of a fighter that needs plenty of room to get his punches across. And we figured that if I stay on top of him the whole time, I wouldn't be giving him this room. And if I use my jab just as much as he used his, then he probably wouldn't use his as much. See, a good defense is a good offense. So as you can see in these pictures, I was using my jab, constantly throwing punches, which never gave him a chance to set himself. No fight goes according to plans. We just figure the best way to fight and hope that the results are favorable. In this fight, we were fortunate. The results were favorable. just caught me with the right hand. That was the one that staggered me. Now, the right hand did hurt, but it didn't hurt that much. I knew where I was, and I knew what I was doing. The strategy in this round was for me to retreat once I get caught with a hard enough punch. And perhaps Ingomar would come rushing in like he did the first time I fought him, wide open for everything. But he never came in. He came in very cautiously, and he wasn't open at all. So after a while, I decided to continue fighting him the way I was. I didn't know that this could be the round. And when I first felt that it could be is when I first knocked him down, as you can see here. He did get back up, but I felt that I could, if I tried hard enough, perhaps even finish him this round. I just wanted to get inside, so I knew he was hurt.
You spun him around there. You didn't hit him when his back was turned.
No, I specifically didn't want to do that. I didn't want to make any mistakes in this fight. I didn't want to give anyone a chance to say that I was a dirty fighter or anything else.
Pandemonium broke loose. This is a slow motion of that knockout punch.
I don't think I can find words to express how I felt at that moment, except somewhat similar to the way I did in 1952 when I won the Olympics.
The time, 1 minute, 51 seconds of the fifth round, and the first man ever to regain the heavyweight championship, the winner, Floyd Patterson.
I was trying to see Ingomar, but there were so many people around me, I was unable to get over to him until afterwards. I just wanted to reassure him that he would get a return match.
This was a question. After the last fight, there was some who said that Floyd Patterson was an overrated champion. Now, in view of last night's fight, does Floyd Patterson think that Johansson may have been an overrated champion?
Definitely not. I wouldn't say so. Even if he was, I would never say anything derogatory about any fighter, being a fighter myself. But I definitely don't think that he was overrated.
Floyd, was the punch that Floyd dropped Johansson with the hardest punch he ever hit anybody with?
I can't answer that one because I would have to go around and ask all the guys that I hit.
Very good. Very good.
You then fought Ingo a third time and won in 5 rounds, and then you fought Tom McNeely and won in 4 rounds.
Yes, then in January I was invited to the White House to meet President Kennedy. After I left the White House, everyone asked, what does a fighter say to a president?
Floyd, what did you and the president talk about?
Well, we talked about boxing quite a bit. He asked me was I in good condition. I told him that I came here from camp. He asked me who my next fight would be with. I told him.
Did you tell us?
No, I told him that I'm not ready to tell the press yet.
Well, there hasn't been anything signed as yet, is that right?
No, there's nothing signed as yet, no, but I know who my next opponent will be.
Can you tell us when it's scheduled and where?
June. The city is not picked yet. It will be one of the larger cities like New York or California, Chicago, one of the bigger cities.
Well, did you tell the president that this is more or less a secret just between you two? I mean, that he couldn't tell anybody, or?
Well, no, I didn't tell him that it was a secret because I know how busy the president is, and I know how difficult it will be for you gentlemen to get to see him to ask him that question, so I felt reasonably free and tell him it would be.
Well, I understand the president felt your muscle, and
Yes, he did.
what do you have to say?
So it was pretty big.
Well, he also gave you a memento of the visit, didn't he?
Oh yes, he took his tie pin off and gave it to me. Here it is.
He took his own off and gave it to
Took
you.
that off and gave it to me.
You won't tell us where this fight is. Can you tell us how it's going to come out?
What do you mean, the results? I hope they're favorable. I told the president that my next fight would be Sonny Liston. So here we are, signing for the fight.
Floyd, how do you feel about the odds that have been published so far, 7-5 against?
Well, everyone can have their own opinion, but that's the way the experts feel. I believe the odds were 2-1 in the second interval, right? Something like that. And the experts were in. There is a slight possibility that they may be off again. I hope so, anyway.
Sonny, you once said that you would be willing to fight Floyd Patterson for nothing. How do you feel about getting paid for it?
Well, I'm next, but I wouldn't mind fighting him in the gym when there's nobody there to watch me. Floyd, we've seen how far you've come since 1952 in the last 10 years when you fought in the Golden Gloves. Now let's see Sonny Liston in 1952 as he fought as a heavyweight in the Golden Gloves. There's Liston in the white trunks. You know, in the last 10 years, Sonny Liston has beaten Cleveland Williams, Nino Valdez, and Howard King, Roy Harris, Zora Foley, and Eddie Machen. Now we're going to be able to see which one of you has come the furthest in the last 10 years. We'll see.